Mara Murray is an American woman who disappeared on the evening of February 9th, 2004 after a car crash on Route 112 near Woodsville, New Hampshire, a village in the town of Haverhill. Mara Murray was born on May 4th, 1982 in Brockton, Massachusetts. Mara was raised in an Irish Catholic household, and when she was 6, Murray's parents divorced, after which she lived primarily with her mother. In high school, Murray was a star athlete on the school's track team. She was accepted into the United States Military Academy in West Point, New York, where she studied chemical engineering for 3 semesters. Believing that West Point was not a good fit for her, she ended up transferring to the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Prior to her disappearance, Mara had a couple incidents with law enforcement and other strange events. In November 2003, 3 months before her disappearance, Murray admitted to using a stolen credit card to order food from several local restaurants. The charge was continued in December, but was dismissed after 3 months of good behavior. On the evening of February 5th, 2004, while she was on duty at her security job at the University of Amherst campus, Murray spoke on the phone with her older sister, Kathleen, discussing her sister's relationship problems with her fiancé. Around 10:30 p.m., while she still was at her shift, Murray reportedly broke down in tears. When her supervisor arrived at her desk, Murray was, quote, just completely zoned out, no reaction at all, and she was unresponsive. The supervisor escorted Murray back to her dorm room around 1:20 a.m. Later, it was found out why Mara was acting that way. Kathleen, an alcoholic, had been discharged from a rehabilitation clinic that evening, and on her way home, her fiancé took her to a liquor store, which caused a relapse. On Saturday, February 7th, 2 days before the disappearance, Murray's father, Fred, visited UMass. He told investigators that he and Murray went car shopping that afternoon and later went to dinner with a friend of his daughter. Murray dropped her father off at his motel room and, borrowing his Toyota, returned to campus to attend a dorm party. She arrived there at 10:30 p.m. At 2:30 a.m. on Sunday, she left the party. At 3:30 a.m., en route to her father's motel, Murray struck a guardrail at Massachusetts Route 9 in Hadley, causing nearly $10,000 worth of damage to her father's car. The responding officer wrote an accident report, but there is no documentation of field sobriety tests being conducted. Murray was driven to her father's motel and stayed at his room the rest of the morning. At 4:49 a.m., there was a cell phone call placed to her boyfriend from Fred's phone. The participants and contents of the phone call remain unknown. Later that morning, Fred learned that the damage to his vehicle would be covered by his auto insurance. He rented a car, dropped Murray off at UMass Amherst, and departed for Connecticut. On the afternoon of Monday, February 9th, the day of her disappearance, at 1:24 p.m., Murray emailed a work supervisor of the nursing school facility that she would not be in town because of a death in her family. According to her family, no such death had taken place. Murray also said she would contact them when she returned. At 2:05 p.m., Murray called a number which provided recorded information about booking hotels in Stowe, Vermont. The call lasted approximately 5 minutes. At 2:18 p.m., she called her boyfriend and left a voice message promising him that they would talk later. This call ended after 1 minute. Murray packed clothing, toiletries, college textbooks, and her birth control pills in her car. When her room was searched later, campus police discovered most of her belongings packed in boxes and the art removed from the walls. It is not clear whether Murray packed them that day, but police at the time said she had packed between Sunday night and Monday morning. On top of the boxes was a printed email to Murray's boyfriend indicating possible trouble in their relationship. After 3:30 p.m., Murray drove off the campus in her black 1996 Saturn sedan. Classes at UMass Amherst had been canceled that day due to a snowstorm. At 3:40 p.m., Murray withdrew $280 from an ATM. Closed circuit footage showed that she was alone. At a nearby liquor store, Murray purchased about $40 of alcoholic beverages. Security footage again shows she was alone when she made those purchases. At some point in the day, she also picked up the accident report forms from the Registry of Motor Vehicles. Murray then left Amherst between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m., presumably via Interstate 91 North. She called to check her voicemail at 4:37 p.m., the last recorded use of her cell phone. To date, there is no indication she had informed anyone of her destination or any evidence that she had chosen one. Sometime after 7 p.m. that day, a Woodsville, New Hampshire resident heard a loud thump outside her house. Through her window, she could see a car up against a snowbank along New Hampshire Route 112, on the sharp corner adjacent to her home. The car pointed west on the eastbound side of the road. The resident called the Grafton County Sheriff's Department at 7:27 p.m. to report the incident. According to the 911 log, the woman claimed to have seen a man smoking a cigarette inside the car. A passing motorist, a school bus driver who lived nearby, stopped at the scene. He saw the car, as well as a young woman walking around the vehicle. The bus driver noticed the young woman was not bleeding or visibly injured, but cold and shivering. He offered to call for help. The woman reportedly asked him to not call the police and assured him she had called AAA. However, AAA has no record of any such call. Knowing there was no cellular reception in the area, the bus driver continued home and called the police. His call was received by the sheriff's department at 7:43 p.m. The bus driver was unable to see Murray's car while he made the call, but did notice several cars pass on the road before police arrived. Another local resident driving home from work claimed she had passed by the scene around 7:37 p.m. and saw a police SUV marked face-to-face with Murray's car. She pulled over briefly and did not see anyone inside or outside either vehicle, and decided to continue home. According to the official police log, at 7:46 p.m., a Haverhill police officer arrived at the scene, but the woman driver had disappeared. No one was inside or around the car. The car had impacted a tree on the driver's side of the vehicle, severely damaging the left headlight and pushing the car's radiator into the fan, rendering it inoperable. The car's windshield was cracked on the driver's side, and both airbags had been deployed. The car was locked. Inside and outside the car, the officer discovered red stains that looked to be red wine. Inside the car, he found an empty beer bottle and a damaged box of Frisana wine near the rear seat. In addition, he found a AAA card issued to Murray, blank accident report forms, gloves, compact discs, makeup, and diamond jewelry, driving directions to Burlington, Murray's favorite stuffed animal, and Not Without Peril, a book about mountain climbing in the White Mountains, which were nearby. Missing was Murray's debit card, credit cards, and cell phone. Police traced the vehicle to Murray and initially treated her as a missing person on the belief that she may have wanted to disappear voluntarily. This speculation was based on her travel preparations and no obvious evidence of foul play. The ensuing investigation and manhunt was large. The FBI was involved, and New Hampshire Fish and Game conducted a ground and air search, using a helicopter with thermal imaging camera, tracking dogs, and cadaver dogs. Murray's older sister discovered a ripped white pair of woman underwear lying in the snow on a secluded trail near French Pond Road on February 26, but DNA tests found that the underwear did not belong to Murray. The case still remains unsolved, and even Mara's dad believed that she died that night, either due to an abduction or to the elements. He holds this belief as no credible sightings of her were ever reported past the day of her disappearance. Madeline Beth McCann, born May 12, 2003, is a British missing person who at the age of 3 disappeared from her bed in a holiday apartment in Praia da Luz, Lagos, Portugal, on the evening of May 3, 2007. Madeline was on vacation from the United Kingdom with her parents, Kate and Jerry McCann, her 2-year-old twin siblings, and a group of family friends and their children. At 8:30, the parents left 5A to dine with their friends in the Ocean Club open-air tapas restaurant located on the other side of the pool. 5A, which was an apartment on the resort, lay about 55 meters from the restaurant as the crow flies. But to reach the restaurant, one needed to walk along a public street to reach the doors of the Ocean Club Resort, and then go through the resort to the other side of the pool, a distance of about 82 meters. The top of the apartment was visible from the tapas restaurant, but not the doors. The patio doors could be locked only from the inside, so the McCanns left them closed but unlocked, with the curtains drawn so they could let themselves in that way when checking in on the children. There was a safety child's gate at the top of the steps from the patio and a low gate at the bottom, which led to the street. Before we go any further, it's important to note that the Tapas 7, something that I will be mentioning throughout the story, was the group of adults that dined inside of the Tapas restaurant during the stay at the resort. The resort staff had left a note in a message book at the swimming pool reception area, asking that the same table, which overlooked the apartments, be block booked for 8:30 for the McCanns and friends every evening for the last 4 evenings of the holiday. The message said that the group's children were asleep in the apartments. Kate believed the abductor may have seen the note. The McCanns and their friends left the restaurant roughly every half hour to check on their children. Jerry carried out the first check on 5A at around 9:05. The children were asleep and all well, except that he recalled having left the children's bedroom door slightly ajar, and now it stood almost wide open. He pulled it nearly closed again before returning to the restaurant. The sighting of Jane Tanner, one of the Tapas 7, of a man carrying a child that night became an important part of the early investigation. Tanner had left the restaurant just after 9 o'clock to check on her own daughter, passing Jerry and Rua Dr. Francesco Gentil Martins on the way back to the restaurant from his 9:05 check. He had stopped to chat with a British holidaymaker, but neither man recalled having seen Tanner. This puzzled the Portuguese police, given how narrow the street was, and led them to accuse Tanner of having invented the sighting. Tanner told the police that around 9:15 she had noticed a man carrying a young child walk across the junction of Rua Dr. Frances Gentil Martins and Rua Dr. Augusta da Silva just ahead of her. He was not far from Madeline's bedroom, heading east, away from the front of apartment 5A. In the early days of the investigation, the direction in which he was walking was thought to be important because he was moving toward the home of Robert Murat, the 33-year-old British-Portuguese man who lived near 5A, and who became the case's first suspect. The child in the man's arms was wearing a light-colored pink pajamas with a floral pattern and cuffs on their legs, similar to Madeline's. Tanner described the man as white, dark-haired, around 5'7", of Southern European descent, around 4 years old, wearing gold or beige trousers and a dark jacket, and said he did not look like a tourist. According to Kate, Tanner passed the information to the Portugal police as soon as Madeline was reported missing, but they did not pass the description to the media until May 25th. The sighting became important because it offered investigators a time frame for the abduction. However, the Scotland Yard came to view it as a red herring. In October 2013, they said that a British holidaymaker had been identified as the man Tanner had seen. He had been returning to his apartment after collecting his daughter from the Ocean Club night crash. Scotland Yard took photographs of the man wearing the same or similar clothes to the one he was wearing on that night, and standing in a pose similar to the one Tanner reported. The pajamas his daughter had been wearing also matched Tanner's report. Operation Garage's lead detective, Detective Chief Inspector Andy Redwood, said they were almost certain the Tanner sighting was not related to the abduction. The rejection of the Tanner sighting as being crucial to the timeline allowed investigators to focus on another sighting of a man carrying a child on the night of Madeline's disappearance. This one reported to Portuguese police on May 26, 2007 by Martin and Mary Smith, who had been in the resort on holiday from Ireland. The Smiths saw the man at around 10 p.m. on Rua da Escola Primeira, 500 yards from McCann's apartment, walking away from the Ocean Club and towards Rua 25 de Abril and the beach. He was carrying a girl aged 3 to 4 years old. She had blonde hair and pale skin, wearing light-colored pajamas. and was barefoot. They reported the man to be around in their mid-30s, 5'7", slim to normal build, with short brown hair, wearing cream or beige trousers. He did not look like a tourist, according to the Smiths, and had seemed uncomfortable carrying the child. Kate had intended to check on the children at 9:30, but Matthew Oldfield, one of the Tapa's 7, offered to do it when he checked on his own children in the apartment next door to 5A. He noticed that the McCann's children's bedroom door was wide open, but after hearing no noise, he left 5A without looking far enough into the bedroom to see whether Madeline was there. He could not recall whether the bedroom window and its exterior shutter were open at this point. Earlier on in the investigation, Portuguese police accused Oldfield of involvement because he had volunteered to do the check, suggesting to them that he handed Madeline to someone through the bedroom window. Kate made her own check of 5A at around 10 p.m. Scotland Yard stated in 2013 that Madeline was probably taken moments before this. Kate recalled entering the apartment through the unlocked patio doors at the back and noticing that the children's bedroom door was wide open. When she tried to close the door, it slammed shut, which is when she saw that the bedroom window and its shutter were open. Madeline's cuddled cat and blanket were still on the bed, but Madeline was gone. After briefly searching the apartment, Kate ran back towards the restaurant, screaming, "Madeline's gone, someone's taken her." At around 10:10, Jerry sent Matthew Oldfield to ask the resort's reception desk to call the police, and at 10:30 the resort activated its missing child search protocol. 60 staff members and guests searched until around 4:30 a.m., at first assuming that Madeline had wandered off. At 11:10, 2 officers arrived. At midnight, after briefly searching, they alerted the criminal police, the Policia Judiciaria, which I will be referring to as PJ for the rest of the video. Kate recounted that the PJ arrived at around 1 o'clock. According to the PJ, they arrived within 10 minutes of being alerted. At 2 a.m., 2 patrol dogs were brought to the resort, and at 8 a.m., 4 search and rescue dogs. Police officers started searching waterways, wells, caves, sewers, and ruins around the resort. It was widely acknowledged that mistakes were made during the so-called golden hours soon after the disappearance. Neither border nor marine police were given descriptions of Madeline for many hours, and officers did not make house-to-house searches. According to Kate, roadblocks were first put in place at 10 a.m. the next morning. Police did not request motorway surveillance pictures of the vehicles leaving the resort the night of the disappearance, or the road in Lagos that was on the Spanish border. Euroscut, the company that monitors the road, said that they were not approached for information. It took Interpol 5 days to issue a global missing person alert. Not everyone in the resort at the time was interviewed. Another important detail is the crime scene was never secured. Portuguese police took samples from Madeline's bedroom, which were sent to 3 forensic labs. It was reported on June 1st, 2007 that DNA from one quote-unquote stranger had been found, but around 20 people had entered apartment 5A before it was closed off, according to Chief Inspector. According to Kate, an officer placed tape across the doorway of the child's bedroom but left at 3 a.m. without securing the apartment. The PJ case file, released in 2008, showed that 5A lay empty for a month after the disappearance, then was let out to tourists before being sealed off in August 2007 for more forensic tests. A similar situation arose outside the apartment when a crowd gathered by the front door of 5A, including next to the children's bedroom window, through which an abductor may have entered or left, trampling on evidence. An officer dusted the bedroom window's exterior shutter for fingerprints without wearing gloves or other protective clothing. 12 days after Madeline's disappearance, Robert Murat, a 34-year-old British-Portuguese property consultant, became a suspect in the case. Murat lived in his mother's house, 150 yards from apartment 5A in the direction in which the man in the Tanner sighting had walked. He was named a suspect after Sunday Mirror journalist told Portuguese police that he had been asking about the case. The PJ had briefly signed Murat up as an official interpreter. He said he had wanted the help because he had a daughter in England around Madeline's age. 3 members of the Tapa 7, Fiona Payne, Russell O'Brien, and Rachel Oldfield, said they had seen Murat outside apartment 5A shortly after the disappearance, as did an Ocean Club nanny and 2 British people on vacation. This would not have been surprising considering how close Murat lived to 5A, but he and his mother said he had been at home all evening. The McCann circle was clearly suspicious of Murat. One of the McCann supporters offered BBC reporter Richard Bilton exclusive access to any new developments in the case. Bilton would report back what the press pack was saying about Murat. Beginning on May 15, 2007, Murat's home was searched, his pool was drained, his cars, computers, phones, and videotapes examined. His garden was searched using ground radar and sniffer dogs, and 2 of his associates were questioned. In March 2008, one of those associates had his car set ablaze with the word "Fala," which means speak, sprayed in red on the pavement. However, there was nothing to link Murat or his friends to the disappearance, and Murat's suspect status was lifted on July 21, 2008 when the case was archived. In statements to the PJ, witnesses described men behaving oddly near apartment 5A in the days before the disappearance and on the day itself. Scotland Yard came to believe that these men may have been engaged in an abduction. Several witnesses reported men collecting for charity. On the 20th of April, a scruffy-looking man asked a tourist for money for an orphanage nearby. However, there were no orphanage nearby at all. Months into the investigation, the media started to turn against the McCanns. On June 6, 2007, a German journalist asked them during a Berlin press conference whether they were involved in the disappearance. On June 30th, a 3,000-word article entitled "The Madeleine Case, A Pact of Silence" appeared in a Portuguese weekly magazine, stating that the McCanns were suspects, highlighting alleged inconsistencies between their statements and implying that the Tanner sighting had been invented. The reporters had obtained the Tapa 7 mobile numbers and that of another witness, so it was apparent the inquiry had a leak. Another news article said that the McCanns and the Tapa 7 were swingers, that the McCanns had been sedating their children, and that the group had formed a pact of silence regarding what had happened the night of the disappearance. With the inconsistencies in their report, among them was whether McCanns had entered the apartment by the front or back door when checking on the children. According to the PJ case file, Jerry stated during his first interview on May 4, 2007, that the couple had entered 5A through the locked front door for his 9:05 and her 10 o'clock checks, and in his second interview on May 10th, that he had entered through the unlocked patio doors at the back. Another issue was whether the exterior shutter over Madeleine's bedroom window could be opened from the outside. According to journalist Danny Collins, the shutter was made of non-ferrous metal slats on the roller bind that was housed in a box at the top of the inside window, controlled by pulling on a strap. Once rolled down, the slats locked in place outside the window and could be raised only by using the strap on the inside. Kate said the shutter and window were closed when Madeleine was put to bed, but opened when she discovered Madeleine was missing. Jerry told the PJ that, when he was first alerted to the disappearance, he had lowered the shutter, then had gone outside and discovered that it could be raised only from the outside. Against this, Portuguese police said that the shutter could not be raised from the outside without being forced, but there was no sign of forced entry. They also said forcing the shutter open would have caused a lot of noise. The apparent discrepancies contributed to the view of the PJ that there had been no abduction. Kate's shout of, "They've taken her," was viewed as suspicious, as though she had been trying to lend credence to the false abduction story. Particularly from August onwards, these suspicions developed into the theory that Madeleine had died in apartment 5A as a result of an accident, perhaps after being sedated to help her stay asleep, and that her parents had hidden her body for a month, before retrieving her and driving her to an unknown place with the car they had rented out over 3 weeks after the disappearance. In 2010, Carlos Anjos, former head of the Police Detectives Union in Portugal, told the BBC that the most Portuguese investigators still believed that Madeleine had died as a result of an accident in their apartment. Both parents were given suspect status on the 7th of September and were advised by their lawyer to not answer questions. The PJ told Jerry that Madeleine's DNA had been found in the car boot and behind the sofa in apartment 5A. Jerry did respond to questions, but Kate declined to reply to 48 questions she was asked during an 11-hour interview. The DNA evidence in the car was a 100% match, according to journalists. The Daily Star reported that a clump of Maddie's hair had been found in the car. The leaks came directly from the Portuguese police, according to testimony in 2012. To this day, the case still remains unsolved. However, I haven't mentioned one suspect, which prosecutors from Germany believe that he was the killer. His name is Christian Bruckner, a German man who was living in the area of the disappearance. The reason many people believe he is the killer is the fact that they found fibers from Madeleine's pants inside of his residence. However, they were unable to convict him, as the body is yet to be found. Those are two cold cases that still remain unsolved. If you liked the video, feel free to subscribe. If you have a video suggestion of what you want to see next, then feel free to comment also. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.